The word actor brings to mind stardom, seduction, fame, and fortune. Also, living on pennies, dreams, and on other people's couches. The craft is a mindset, one that can change the way you see yourself and the world around you. It isn't Hollywood. It's not Broadway. This is Riddlesbrood. So welcome to the Acting Out Podcast. And now your host, Clyde P. Riddlesbrood.
Hello, and thank you for tuning in to the Acting Out Podcast. I'm going to be your host, Clyde P. Riddlesbrood. And we have a really fun guest for you to listen to. She is our amazing janitor. She cleans out all the toilet. Oh, just kidding. She is actually an amazing costume designer. And she does all of our measurements and makes the costumes and sews things and all kinds of amazing things. So let's introduce Kathleen Tegen.
Hey there. You can call me Mima. That's what everybody else calls me.
All right, will do. But you know what? Before we get started, why don't you just introduce yourself to the person listening to this and also tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this.
Okay, well, like I said, I'm Mima to everybody. How did I get into this? God, years ago when I had kids, money's tight. So I knew how to sew, so I made their clothes. And then my little girl used to do beauty pageants, and all little girls are beautiful. So you have to really make them stand out. So I would design her dresses, and she did very well. She did 32 pageants and won 31 of them. So I was a little conceited. And then years went on, and I got involved with dance studios. And people would say, can you fix this costume? Or can you make this costume stand out? And I was like, yeah, I can do that. And I would do it. Then I got involved with Riddlesbrood. And how that happened was my grandson was in a fashion show for a prom company. And I ran into a gentleman by the name of Brian. And he was talking to my grandson, Tyler, and he said something about costumes, and he goes, my Mima can do that. And he came over to me and said, hey, can you do some costumes for me?
Just not to interrupt you, but was that the Frankenstein Rocks?
That was before, right when Frankenstein Rocks. He said that his costumer had moved, I think, to Texas or something. And I laughed. I said, yeah, it's a little bit of a far commute. And I said, sure, I'll get involved in it. And I was sucked in, and then I met you, and it just went on from there. And it's like, It's like a long-term marriage. It has its ups and downs, and it's like we said, arguments, but I'm always there.
Well, theater can definitely be contagious.
Absolutely.
You catch different theater groups together.
You do.
Almost like a disease.
Once you're sucked in, you even when you're mad, like you go home. Every show. I'm never going to do another show. Wait, what are we doing next time?
Yeah, then at the end, it's like, when's the next time?
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
But the costuming is a little special because I feel like I'm creating somebody's vision. Like you come to me and say, I have this character. We were designing Merlin and also the one character with all the squirrels. And you came in, I have this is what I want. So I have to create your vision. And it's exciting. It's putting down in fabric and cardboard and foam and wires what somebody else has in their head.
Well, what was it that, obviously, making a costume is one thing. Being involved in a group where you got 30 kids and you're making a bunch of different costumes, a bunch of fairies or a bunch of carolers or a bunch of medieval kids or whatever it might be. What is it that you like about, being the Mima of a bunch of kids and creating all their costumes?
Because I love every one of them. They start out so young and we watch them grow. And I know, it's funny, we laugh, we say, I may not know half these kids' names sometimes, but I know their measurements. And I know what one kid or even adult has a problem with certain fabrics. So I have to find a way to make that costume comfortable, because if an actor isn't comfortable on stage, they're not going to perform to their max. So when one of these actors puts on that costume and says, oh my God, this is so great. I feel so good. I guess I'm conceited.
It definitely gives them confidence. I mean, when they walk out there,
I feel makes me feel special, making them feel special.
I know the one show that we did where I definitely felt that was when we did the Wizard of Oz, what was it, like a year or two ago? Mm-hmm. The costumes that you created for the Scarecrow and for the Lion and all that were just so good. And the actors, they have an idea from watching the movies or watching, videos online or something. They have an idea that they're costume, but they also know that, Riddlesbrood isn't a multi-billion-dollar company with money to throw around. So they kind of think to themselves, okay, what are they going to order from the Halloween superstar that I got to wear out there, right? But when they actually tried on their costumes at rehearsal, and I could see they're like walking around and, taking pictures of themselves, like they want to show their friends. They really look great, and it made them really excited about the opportunity to get out there on stage, and that's what I really like to see.
That's one of the things I like. I like when they're surprised, like, wow, I didn't think that was. And also when we do, especially like the Wizard of Oz, that was an outside show, and we're doing costumes that are horribly hot. So I have to do certain little things in them to make it so that they can. We don't want actors passing out on stage. It kind of ruins the show. So I do special little things in them, like make pockets so that they can put ice packs in them. The Cowardly Lion, that was a really hot costume, and I had to make it so that he wasn't going to die.
Yeah.
So I put pockets in it, and I put ice packs in it, and they were like something as simple as that. He was so impressed. He was like, wow, this is really great, Yeah. Or the Tin Man, he was like, I really look like a Tin Man. I was like,
yeah, I mean, it looked great.
And it made them become the actual part. Yeah. And that made me feel good.
Well, I mean, it should, because that was a great job you did on that. And that was just one of the shows. I mean, Alice in Wonderland was another one that you did.
I think that was my favorite, but I was in that. So.
Everybody loved that. I mean, the caterpillar was so big. But what really was curious is, like, if you're a mom and you have a couple kids and you're like, oh, I want to get my kid involved in something. The thing that I like about having you involved is kind of, I guess, what I might call like theater hospitality. And what I mean by that is, when the kid shows up, they know that there's all these different people that are there to serve them in a way. Like, they're learning the show, but we're here to make sure they look good, or make sure their makeup's good, or make sure the lighting looks good, or make sure the sound effects are good. So in a lot of ways, all of us are around the edges of the show to try to uplift them and make them better. And I think that's a kind of an aspect of the show that I try to do that I don't know if every other theater looks at it like that. They might look at it more like, well, this is a professional show and you have to be as good as you can be. And there's nothing wrong with that, wanting the quality to be as good as you can. But I think there's an even more important factor in that, people are lending you their time. They want to be part of something. They want an experience. And anything that we can do to make that experience bigger and grander and more fun, that's something that I like to do. It makes me feel great at the end of the show.
Well, I think that my job, especially with theater, our theater, because we deal with a lot of kids when we're doing the main stage. I think I try to take each actor, particularly children that are inexperienced, that are new, and make them feel that I'm somebody they can come to. Because let's face it, I'm taking their body measurements and I'm talking to them and I'm trying to make them feel comfortable about putting on a costume and becoming somebody else. And I want them to know that I'm going to be here with them. I have had kids call me at 10, 11 o'clock at night about not necessarily a costume, but about a part they're playing, because it will affect their costume. Mm-hmm. It really will. No, it's not just, yes, I do costumes, but I'm not just costumes. I try to help them out and make them feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And I want them to know that, actually with all of us, but I want each person to know that they can come to me if they have something that they want to talk about, and maybe they're afraid to go to the director, because let's face it, once you say the director, it's like, oh boy, we're in big trouble. It's like sending a kid to the principal. So they come to me because I'm the costumer. I'm just stitching their clothes on. I'm stripping them down and putting their clothes back on. They come to me and say, hey, this is happening, or this isn't happening, or I'm afraid of this, or can you help me with that? And I'll go that way. I can come to the director and say, hey, listen, we might have a little issue here, or, hey, this is really going well. Maybe we can, do this more. And it works out good.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of interesting, too, because, like I've been the director plenty of times. This time I'm not. We have a guy named Terry O'Brien who's actually directing The Christmas Carol. But usually I've been the director quite a bit of times. And sometimes it's nice to be able to play good cop, bad cop. And sometimes I can be the bad cop and you can be the good cop. So a good example of that might be, like you said, like, when you're the director and you're working with actors, especially children, I always try to approach it from the point of view of, we want to make you as good as you can be. And that does mean having to turn a bit of a critical eye. And that's not always, I guess, politically correct or not always comfortable for somebody to be looking at you and say, you're not doing that right. Say it like this, and you're not standing right. You're having someone criticize you in an intimate way that people are not used to being criticized that in the normal everyday life. I mean, you're not walking around and somebody says, hey, you over there, stop walking like that, walk different. So it can be intrusive, but while the director is being intrusive, they can see you and you can't see yourself. And using them to give you notes, you can actually get them to be way better than they would otherwise be if they were just winging it. That being said, it's nice to be able to have somebody that they can go to and say, he's telling me to do this, but I'm not really sure about that. And that's where you can fit in well, because you can kind of, bring the confidence up. So if
I try to do that.
If the direction that I've given them is helpful, but bringing them down a little bit, they need, you need a way to bring them back up. So it's like you need to do two things simultaneously.
I think that because I have a little bit of acting experience, I know what they're doing. I know when they go on that stage and, whether it's in a theater or outside, like we do some of our shows, that spotlight, so to speak, is on you. So I know how that feels, Yeah. And I know that, when the director says, you really messed that up.
Right.
The director's not saying you really messed that. He's not saying you messed it up. And I try to give that to especially the kids. But I've had adults come to me and say, whoa, that director, he's tough. He's mean. No, he's not mean. He's trying to get the best from you. And you're not really that mean.
The funny thing is actually, from the director's point of view, a lot of times, especially when you're dealing with 25 or 30 people, you don't even remember not always every single thing you're saying. You're hitting like 100 people simultaneously. Whereas to them, it's all about them in that moment. They're like, oh, I got a note. Oh, he doesn't think this is good, or I'm not funny, or I'm not loud, or whatever it might be. But that's just part of the process of self-improvement.
Well, that is too. And the other thing is that I find myself dealing with costumes, and it's not just in this theater. I do a lot of dance studio costumes. I do a lot of solo costumes. I do alterations for a lot of groups and stuff like that. So I'll have parents come to me and say, I want you to make her costume stand out. I had a mother come to me once, and it was horrible. We're doing a group lyrical number in a dance studio, and I was putting jewels on the costumes, like, that's what you do.
Right.
And she goes, I want you to make sure that you put extra ones on mine. And I thought she was joking, but she was dead serious. And I was like, she goes, well, I want her to stand out. I'm like, she's going to stand out anyway because she's talented. They're all talented, But sometimes dealing with parents is harder than the kids. But you do that with even adults. I'm a choral person. I'm in the chorus. I want my costume to really stand out. Well, it's a group. They're all the same.
You know what? There is a lesson in theater, and some people need to learn the lesson, which is sometimes it's not all about you. Right?
Exactly.
And now let's be honest. The reason why I'm in theater is because I love getting applause and attention, and I want it to be all about me, right? But you learn after a while that that's actually not helping.
No, not
it's
at
not
all.
helping you.
And we try to I see friendships with us too.
Yeah.
With the kids, they grow up, they come in all shy, and everybody's standing in separate corners of the room. And by the end of the show, everybody's crying, "Oh my God, the show's over! Oh, you guys did it!" Everybody's sad, and everybody loves each other. But everybody like you said, everybody wants to be a star. Everybody wants to stand out. I make my costumes extra special because I get, I think my costumes are pretty good, and I feel good about it.
Well, there's a delicate a delicate aspect to that, because on one hand, the desire for attention and the desire to stand out is actually a good, powerful instinct. So you don't want to quelch that in the process of telling them, hey, at this moment, it can't be about you. You have to be the same as everyone else right now, because that's how the joke works, or that's how the scene works, or you can't upstage people. That being said, you don't want to smother their desire to be in the spotlight.
No, you just make them feel special.
Right, make them feel special, but just so that they understand, hey, there's a time and place for everything.
For everything.
And, you have your moment to get out there. Don't step on little Bobby's moment right now. This is his moment. Don't, upstage him, or don't say an ad lib. So, it's a delicate balance to try to bring out the best in everybody, but also kind of rein them in a little bit when they start getting a little out of control.
Well, we're very lucky because I think our people all really work together, from the oldest right down to the youngest. We're blessed. Not all groups are like us. Believe me, I've been involved with a lot, and we are lucky that we have that bond. And hopefully it'll remain forever.
Yeah, well, you know what? Not to change the subject too much, but one of the things that makes Riddlesbrood stand out from a lot of different theater companies is that, we do the main stage shows, we do the bigger shows with a bunch of kids and community theater stuff, but we also do the touring show, we do kids shows, we do game shows, we do Halloween haunts that we're getting ready to get into right now. So really, we're like an entertainment company more than just typical.
I agree with that, but I think one of the things with us is that to get into your touring shows, I look at these kids. They come in real young. Obviously, they're not doing the actual touring shows, but the idea is to learn so that they can get that good, so they can become part of the touring shows.
Well, not just that, but the reason why I like you to be involved is because, unlike a lot of costume designers, like you said, you have a lot of entertainers in your family. I mean,
yes, I do.
Why don't you take a second, just so that the guy listening to this, sitting in his couch right now, says, "Oh yeah, let him understand a little bit of the people in your family that do this kind of thing, or do very different types of entertainment."
Well, I did a little bit of theater in high school, of course, so that when I had children, I thought, oh, cool, I really want them to get into something. I had a son that was a dancer, and he grew up and all that. And he unfortunately passed away several years ago, but he had his children. And his one boy, Tyler, wanted to dance like Daddy and Mommy. Mommy and Daddy were partners when they were 4 years old. And so Tyler started dancing. And it went on from there. Well, then he became interested in doing circus arts. And this kid, now he's 25, his feet are never on the floor, ever. They're always up in the air, and he's a performer. He does professional tumbling. He's a stilt walker, and he's done gigs all over the place. He's done the Philadelphia Eagles. He's been entertainment on their, field. So he does a little bit of acting as well. He's done a few things with Riddlesbrood, silly.
He was the jester that one year. He was the jester, yes. But I think that was I don't think he was acting. I think that was actually him. I really do. So theater and entertainment has been in my family since I was in high school. I always wanted to be an actor. In high school, I did do sewing. I didn't do too many costumes at that point. Right.
But I was cheap. Because I would see an outfit that I wanted and I couldn't afford it, so I'd make it.
Right.
And it just kind of went on from there.
Well, that's where the creativity really shines. When you have plenty of money, you can just buy everything. But when you don't, and you got to use creativity.
Even if you have money, it's so fun to be able to say, I did that. Yeah. Now, during our theater season, my house is a little odd. People think it's strange that I have mannequins literally all over my house. My daughter thinks it's hysterical to change their clothes and stand them by the window and make them look out. My neighbors all think I'm a little peculiar, but that's part of theater. When you live near somebody who's really seriously in theater or in costuming, strange things happen. It's nothing to see my grandson walk around the block on, 12-foot stilts, or walking across the yard on a balancing ball, or tumbling down the street. That's what theater's about.
You know what? The reason why I bring it up is because, like Ty and you and a lot of the actors, we have some actors that do all kinds of puppets and weird different things. They're not just community theater actors that do this once every 6 months. That's important because, just like they always say, show business. I think a lot of different companies that just do, Shrek, or just do a main stage show, Willy Wonka
There's
Jr.
more to it than that.
It's only community theater. It's like only that type of aspect. Whereas we have to confront reality far more often. That's what we definitely have the business part of the show. And that means that the actors that are involved really have to not just be involved in community theater as like a fantasy that they're in at the moment, but they really have to be confronted with, hey, the show is not on a stage, it's on a trailer in a park. Or, hey, you're actually, juggling, or you're actually on stilts, or you have to be aware.
There's more than that.
Right. It's more robust as a form of what you're learning. You're not just learning how to say lines on a stage. You're learning a whole craft, a whole kind of a life
that's
outlook.
It. And when one of the kids comes to me and said, "Oh, I like doing I want to learn to do costuming. I want to learn to do what you do." It makes me feel good knowing that they're seeing that it's not just being a star on stage. There's a whole bunch of stuff behind there. It's just, doing the sketches, like I said, when I try to create your vision, doing a sketch of what a costume's going to be. So now I have a kid that says, "Wow, I can draw." Well, that's the first step. You're going to draw out the idea. Then you're going to make the pattern. Then you're going to, feel the fabric and all of that. So, yeah, they're involved in theater, but they may not want to be on the stage.
No, as a matter of fact,
they just want to be behind. My granddaughter, Cadence, is involved.
Yeah.
She is fantastic. She's got a beautiful voice and she's very talented. She does not want to be on stage. She absolutely loves doing the stage management. And that's her thing. And she's good at it. That's her thing. When we say, like, when she sings, we go, "Oh, you should be out there singing." She's like, "Yeah, I like to sing, but that's not the part of theater that I like."
Well, it's like the way I have a slightly, again, it's the same basic, perspective, but, I've been involved with a lot of different, when I'm, technical director for a theater here and there. Occasionally I've been involved where dance troupes will come in. And a lot of these dance troupes, again, I'm not trying to put down dance troupes, but the basic concept is this pageant kind of business model where the whole idea is, let's just get every conceivable kid we can. We'll put them in a cute little outfit. We'll charge their parents an arm and a leg, and we'll put them up on the stage for a minute, and that'll be how we make money. The model basically being, we're not really teaching them much. We're not really giving anything. We're just giving them a moment to be on the bright lights so their parents can be out there and clap and take a picture. There's been an aspect of that that's always rankled me. I don't like that. So one of the things that I've always felt like I wanted to do is when the kids are involved in our show, take into account the fact that these people are not going to become actors, right? They're not going to turn into Laurence Olivier's or Lady Gaga's. The chances are they're going to move on into a regular life. So what can we do while we have them for that short time to help them with their life? And I think like building confidence, having to come in contact with the real world, like, hey, there's props moving around. There's this going on. You have to be able to learn from different people, work with different kind of personalities. I actually feel like the process of entering a show from the audition, rehearsing, learning how to do it, seeing all the moving parts, finally putting it in front of an audience, getting the applause, and then it's done. That process, I think, is extremely helpful because I think a kid can learn a lot by being thrust into something, being forced to learn a lot in a short period of time, and then have it be urgent. I mean, at a certain point, there's urgency. The show's tomorrow, guys. You don't know what you're doing. There's stress that comes with that. There's, oh my goodness. And then they do it, and then they get the applause. It happened. It didn't collapse, or there's probably a million problems.
There's so much with theater,
but it always ends right. It always ends, and then you can look at it in retrospect. And I think there's a lot to be learned for young people in that process.
Well, they're learning so many different skills. They're learning, like with me, with costuming, but they're learning building props and construction. They're learning makeup. They're learning how to remember lines. Everybody has a process to learn their lines if they're in the acting. But there's so much more to theater than just standing up on stage. So much behind the scenes. And you know what they say, if you need a job done, hire a theater kid. Because they've learned I hope they've learned at least, that they've learned how to time manager, to be on time, to go and get their point across, to build a set, to learn how to work together to break down that set. Because everybody's starving after the show, and we want that set broke down and put away so we can go and eat.
Well, the thing that I've latched onto is, I don't know about you, but I've talked to some of the teenagers, and in this day and age, there's a lot of anxiety.
Absolutely.
And I talked to some, girls are like, oh, I got to take my driver's test, and what if I fail it? And oh my God, or oh, I got to take this test, or oh, I got to do this. There's this concept of all this anxiety because of some event that's going to occur in the near future, and their approach to it mentally is one of, this is a collision, and if I don't get it right, the world ends. And that's not a great way to approach things, because that's going to happen over and over again in life, right? Exactly. You're going to have job interviews. You're going to somebody might pass away, or, something might happen. Look at it instead like a transaction. This event's going to happen. Okay, maybe you fail the test. All right, well, you learned something from that. But you get another crack at it. You probably get an eternal amount of cracks at it.
These kids look for the problem. This is going to be written on my stone when I pass. This is my philosophy of life. If you look for a problem, you'll be 100% guaranteed to find it. Even the most beautiful diamonds have flaws, but they sparkle. That's why we like them. So be the sparkle.
Well, not only that, don't
positivity.
Be afraid to fail occasionally. I mean, yes, occasionally you will get out there and you mess up.
So what?
And of course, there's all those things that come with it. Maybe you're embarrassed, or maybe whatever. But at the end of the day, it's just a moment on the clock, and the hands of the clock keep going by. And then tomorrow, half the people don't care or remember anyway.
They're not going to remember, and if they do remember, it's going to be something really funny, and it's going to make somebody laugh. And in this day and age, it's going to be a meme, and then you're famous.
Right. Well, just don't be worried about making a mistake, and don't be worried about one moment, because that moment will be past.
I've made costumes that I'm like, wow, I really thought that was going to be better than it was, and that didn't work out. So then I'm like, okay, great. Well, I learned that's not going to work. Now I'll use something else.
I love the squirrel costume, by the way. The guy who wore it was a little weird.
He was a little unusual.
Yeah,
but
he had unusual facial features.
But the thing with that was, see, I took his demeanor into,
So I used his character to actually inform you how you made the costume.
Absolutely. The squirrels with the fuzzy tails were perfect.
That was a funny costume. Well, you know what? That was great. I mean, I think it's really nice that we have such a great team. People.
It's family. This is more than just a team. It's family, and it's like even from day one when a new person comes aboard, it's like, oh, we have another family member, a cousin that showed up that she didn't expect was going to be there. And then by the end of this show, everybody knows something about everything. That's why I like when we have like our opening before practice, and we always like to tell us something about yourself.
Right.
Something that you don't know. I've been involved for years, and so have you. I'm starting to run out of things that nobody knows, but it's fun to try.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, we got a lot of new faces.
We do.
We just did our audition.
We are lucky.
Maybe a few days ago, a week ago, and we got a lot of new faces that are going to be in this Christmas show.
The talent out there is amazing. It really is. I think more so than the kids are getting away from there. Everybody's into electronics, and now all of a sudden they realize that it's not all about that screen and that game. They can come out and.
Well, that's why we try to tell people to put down the phone. You can be on the phone all day long or on your tablet, but when you're here at rehearsal, this is time to interact with other human beings.
That's hard for a lot of kids these days, though.
But you know what? Practice makes perfect. The more you do it, the more it's not a big deal. And I've seen that a lot. Like plenty of times there was a little kid or a little girl that, is relatively young and a little bit shy, and she's not sure how to, interact with new people. And usually within about a couple rehearsals, you just look over there and you can see him running around.
Oh, yeah. You're like, how did that happen? Who is that kid? And that's really good because it allows them to be something that they otherwise wouldn't be.
Yeah.
Not every little girl gets to be a princess in real life. So when they're there with us, they can be. Or a fairy, or
at the very least, they're not on their social media or they're not on their phone for like an hour a week. Because there's plenty of that already. It's nice to have at least a few moments.
It's funny you should say that because I noticed that the one rehearsal that we had in the last show, they started out playing on their phone. And then we said, put your phones away. And the next thing you know, at the next rehearsal, what they were bringing up on their phone was stuff from the rehearsals or scenes. And I'm like, well, it was amazing. It kind of changed it.
Guys, why are you videotaping this? We're here. We're here right now. But you know what? But that's what it's all about as far as building connections. I actually really enjoy it when I hear, people say, even after a show ends and one kid's in the new show and the other kid's not in the show this time because they had soccer or whatever it might be. But they still communicate. They still text each other.
They are still attached.
So they've built some actual social connections that may, who knows? They might know each other, their whole life.
And
we were part of that.
The costuming part of it is always cracks me up because it's the first thing they say. They get their part, and then they go, "What am I going to wear?" And that's cool because I think that the sets and the costumes are the first thing that the audience sees, so it's got to look good.
Yeah,
and then they go on from there. And if the costumes are good and the set's good, the actors are going to
that makes the memory good, because at the end of the day, no matter what you're doing, all the shows, at the end of the day, they only exist as a few pictures in some disk drive somewhere, right? So in a lot of ways, you're building a memory that will hopefully be looked at years in the future. So I want to make sure that when that kid looks back on that picture, they're like, wow, I remember that.
My first Frankenstein Rocks or my first Christmas show with y'all. And I remember, I have deep set memories from that. And I think about it when we're doing a new show. I'm like, oh, I remember that feeling, it just, something, it could be just a fleeting moment. You're like, oh, wow. Yeah, I remember that.
Well, that's what makes it nice for me. And I got to tell you, it was a pleasure getting a chance to chat with you here tonight, Kathleen. And, do you have any last parting words for the occasional mom or dad that might be listening to this and thinking, hey, maybe I could get my kid involved?
It's just come on down. It's always, it's something exciting. These kids make lifelong friends. And it's great to see your family on stage or behind stage doing something that they like. But that's what it is to me, is the bond. These kids make friends that they literally will remember or have for a lifetime.
Yeah, that's the idea.
And then, of course, the big thing for me is I like to watch these kids grow up. They're all my grandbabies, every one of them.
There's been some that were like 6-year-old, 7-year-old, and now they're
graduating
21
high
and
school.
they're
Oh my gosh, it's terrible. One of them is in college. She was here with us when she was like 5.
Are you talking about Eileen?
Eileen. Oh my God, she goes to college with Cadence, my granddaughter.
It's amazing to see people, rise up through the ranks, and actually she still does shows on the tour every once in a while. Yeah. And it's a lot of fun. And she's going for psychiatry or something like that. I mean, it's amazing watching them evolve. And it's nice to think that we were a little part of that. So it's nice to know. It's really nice to know. So
we help kids grow up, and we help adults stay young.
Well, you know what? That's it. Thank you so much for listening to us today with the Acting Out Podcast. Again, my name is Ryan with the Riddlesbrood Touring Theater Company. If you are interested, make sure to visit our website at www.riddlesbrood.com. There's plenty of things on there. We, of course, do plenty of murder mysteries, game shows, dinner theater, kids puppet shows, and all kinds of things. Or if you're just interested in coming to a show, take a look at our online calendar, and you'll be able to find out a place near you to come and enjoy a show. Thanks, and have a great day.